Alright, so our group is called In the Stands. I'm Nathan Grime.
Jonathan Clucker.
And I'm Brandon Kiefer.
And we did an Android application for a scorekeeping app.
So the basic description of our app is that it's for keeping live scores of local sports venues. I'm looking for a better word, but it's so that an admin can keep score of a game while they're sitting at the game, and someone can be watching the game or following it along. So it's kind of like ESPN for local sports venues, like high schools. So because I can say something like ESPN already has a proven model, people are obsessed with sports in this country, and people will follow things no matter what, is pretty much where it's at, especially in Iowa where they really don't have anything else besides local sports. It has two sides to it. It's got an admin side of the application where you can create games, you can delete games, you can then set the scores of those individual games. And then there's a user side where you can follow individual organizations and you can see the different upcoming games that are going on. Again, why design this product? It's basically going on the business model of ESPN. You know, people are obsessed with the instant gratification of live scoring and live sports, and I want to know right dang now what the score is, or my kid's playing and it's a state finals game and I really want to know. I just am so curious. So that was basically the motivation for this. Our sponsor, who is the AD over at Iowa City High, was more than willing to work with us. He's like, wow, that sounds like a great idea. That's really something that we could use. And of course, they just want more people to follow the school so they can ultimately make more money. So.
Alright, so our project overview. Things that went well for us during the project is we worked well as a team, and we worked hard and we all helped each other to accomplish each other's tasks whenever somebody needed help. And we recycled a lot of our code for like similar processes. So if we made the same API calls, so in the API we reused information, so that way we only had to make one API call instead of multiple calls to the API. Things that didn't go well for us, we didn't realize how difficult learning some of the processes for Android development would be, so we kind of overshot our scope when we first created our scope for it. But once we learned how the basics went, it kind of made it a little bit easier, and it started letting us make more progress towards our goal. And some of the things that we could have improved on was maybe better use of a pivotal tracker tracking progress, so we could tell our speed and process of the Android application. And maybe just better estimation of the time to complete the tasks, so we could better make a scope for the future of the project. So during this project, John here, he was the team lead on connecting the Android application to the server, so he was the one that handled all the API calls from the Android app to the server. And he helped develop the Android layouts with me, so he kind of helped me design what the layout should look like. And he also helped with
And then I helped with the development of the Android screens also. Nathan was the team Android lead. He did most of the design work. He asked for me and Brand's input on the situation for all the screen layouts and the development of them to make sure when he was developing the screens that they looked okay. Then Brandon was mainly responsible for all the back end and the database side. His input was also given on all the design layouts, all the screen layouts, and stuff like that. The next thing what we're going to do is show you the app. On two sides, you have the user side. On the user side, there's... He's going to log in real quick and I'll talk about as he kind of demonstrates here. So first we have login screen where login first is a user. Maybe admin first.
Huh?
Login as admin. So the first screen right here is called our scores page, where it will display the organizations that the person follows within a set time date of plus or minus a week of the current date. This page is used to see the current scores of games that are going on right now, and also see past and future games coming up within a week time frame. Then we have an organization page, which is where the organizations, where you can search for an organization, and you can favorite and unfavorite an organization on the page, which is how you determine which ones you're following, which is what shows up on the original scores page that you saw to begin with. So if he unclicks Southeast Polk, it would eliminate all the games at Southeast Polk unless he's following another organization that's playing Southeast Polk. First, if you took away I Say Hi and went back to the scores page, you're no longer going to see the I Say Hi versus Southeast Polk game, which you don't anymore. And then we have an events page, which just shows all the upcoming events in their schedule for all the organizations and teams that you are currently following in the system. And it says the sport that's going on with the date, then the teams that are playing. That's the admin, that's the user side of the application. We also have a admin view, which Nate will show. So these are the current organizations that the admin would have control over. And then you can click on whichever one you have control over, which will then take you to all the teams that are in the system, whether that's whatever sports is what we call as teams, so like football, baseball, basketball, soccer, rugby, whatever sports are in the system essentially that they want to add. Then if you click on one of those, it gives you first it shows you all the games in the system currently. You can delete any of those games. Then it'll take off the system. And then you can add a game. On the add game, there's all the options that are laid out. First you pick the home organization, which is the teams that you have control over. And if you don't have control over any of those teams, then you won't be able to create a game. We only allow you to create a game for the home organizations of the teams you have control over. Then the away organizations, it lists all the teams currently in the system. Then you can put a date. Then from there, it'll show up on the user side. Depending on the day, if it's within this week time frame, it'll show up on the scores page, which was the very first page, which shows you the recent and past games within a week. Otherwise, it'll show up on the events page, which we can show you in a minute. Which page? User source. Which you set for 5.5. Southeast Polk.
Set for 5.6.
So yeah, follow Southeast Polk. So it didn't show up because he doesn't follow either one of those two organizations. So he's going to just follow Southeast Polk just to show you kind of how the search functionality works, and then that it will show up on searching after you follow one of the two organizations. So, yeah.
I know, I was just if you just search for South, it just shows Southeast Polk.
Okay. Then, as you can see, it showed up on the system.
It's the new one we created, right?
The one that just created right there. And then it goes back to the admin view. You can then click on the game he just created or a current game coming up to keep score of the game. And then from there, you can change the score of the two teams. It shows up the sport, the date that's going on, and it shows up two team names, and you can change score. Then you hit submit, and it'll submit the score to the user page. Then the score update there. And then if you want to go back, you can go back to view the games, and you can change and add different scores and games back like you were doing before. And as you can see, the score update right there. Right now we don't have it, so it automatically updates. Unfortunately, on the scores page, you have to hit a refresh button to update the score. So then there's some things we still want to work on if we had more time. Brandon will take over from here and share that insight with you guys.
So if we were going to continue to work on this, we would like to add stuff like rosters and being able to keep up to date stats as well as live scores. So we need a way to connect it to a real-time server so that it can update the scores without needing a refresh button or anything along those lines, without having to prompt the server to give them an updated score. It just would need to feed it on its own. So if we had more time, that's what we would do.